Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilly Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We're going back to that horrible world known as the JRC. But before we do, just to prep you, as you can kind of see here from that first word, psychotropic drugs. So we're going to have this individual who has a psychologist's degree talking about things that he never studied, in a field he's never practiced in, with research papers he's never read. Everything he's going to give us is anecdotal and biased. You're going to have someone give you a very, very false, distorted, and just out and out wrong view on psychotropic drugs and pharmacology. In fact, we're going to see something that we haven't really seen probably since the advent of fucking Andrew Wakefield. Do not get me started on that bastard. There are a few individuals on this earth I could say at this point on today that I hate more than AH, but there are a few that come to mind, and it's these three in motherfucking particular. Andrew Wakefield, Jenny McCarthy, and Matthew Israel. And I may go into a rant as to exactly why that is too. Now that my channel is going to be focused back on its primary objective again, you may see more videos coming out other than the ones on Agape and the JRC, particularly during the weekends. But we haven't started yet because I'm going to need at least a little bit of a rest. Come on, folks, it's Christmas. And also, to share some positive news with you, I was happily shocked at the beginning of my work week by the boss of my boss. The boss of my boss reached out to me. Guess who got a November bonus? This kid right here. Does that mean I'm going to go spending over $1,000 willy-nilly going crazy? I wish, but no. I've got bills. So I'm going to use it as a means to pay off the loan that I took out about a year ago from my 401k. Pay that off. Take out more. Use that as a means to cover out all of my debt. And put everything on automatic payments as a Christmas gift to myself. It's the best Christmas gift for my stressed out ass that I can possibly think of. So please join me in saying, yes, yes. Woo! Doesn't mean I'm like money rich all of a sudden, but I am glad to know that soon I will be the kind of broke that gets to finally start breaking even again. It's gonna be glorious, folks. It's gonna be glorious. Alright, now, in the description box, folks, you're going to find a link to the article that the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center doesn't want you to read. It is written by NeuroClastic, a small non-for-profit started by autistics for autistics, wherein they interviewed and surveyed over 900 ABA professionals in regards to the JRC's quote-unquote behavioral modification program. Matter of fact, the JRC doesn't want you to read this article so much they have threatened NeuroClastic with a defamation lawsuit if they did not remove it from the website. So you know the drill. Please read that article and share on all your social media. We also have linked in there NeuroClastic's public statement regards to the defamation lawsuit threat, as well as a link to their GoFundMe. We are crowdfunding in case the JRC has the balls to see through with their threat. We got the pertinent links to the Agape boarding school situation as well. Agape boarding school is a Christian-themed boarding school based out of Stockton, Missouri that takes in so-called troubled male teens that has and pending over 21 civil lawsuits and claims and allegations leveled against it, all which have been substantiated by the investigations done by the Missouri Department of Social Services that include sodomy, rape. They include sexual assault, child abuse, psychological and emotional abuse, child trafficking, and yes, starvation, and that's just for starters. We've got one former staff member arrested by the FBI, another, a doctor who's still on the premises, up on multiple substantiated claims of sodomy, rape, and sexual assault of the boys there. We got an attorney general who can't be bothered to do his job or protect, well, anyone in Missouri, and a governor hyped up on a power trip. So please share those links. Don't forget to share and sign the change.org Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. We got the pertinent links to the Stop the Shocks campaign as well, including Hoya's massive archive on the subject, the templates, and the ever-present, self-explanatory, change.org, Shut the Judge Rotenberg Center Down petition. We got a link to Jennifer Masumba's behavioral sheet over shockable offenses, and a clip out of the 7-hour ordeal undergone by Andre McCollins back in 2002. When we discuss the JRC, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips of surveillance footage of people with disabilities being tortured and abused. If you got young children present, please use your headphones, all right? This channel is marked not for children for a reason. We use profanity and we speak about dark subjects. If your child is 16 and younger, parental supervision is advised. Trigger warning, we are about to descend into the mad ravings of the lunatic mind known as Dr. Matthew Israel. You're going to hear lies, bias, abuse apologencia, victim blaming, gaslighting, and just all the classics. So be prepared for that, all right? Okay. And after this, I'm going to rest a little. I'm still a little bit angry about some of y'all's takes about JD to do a video properly without going off on a rant that would make General Zod proud. Alright. Yes. Zod. Psychotropic drugs. Drugs. You know nothing about drugs. You never study the field, doctor. Shut your mouth. Alright? You're about as believable as Andrew Wakefield. If positive-only procedures are insufficiently effective, the most common strategy in other programs is to use the psychotropic drugs. Most programs place students with severe behavior problems on a cocktail of dangerous and sedating psychotropic drugs. Lie! Can I tell you why? Remember when I told you not only was I one of those disabled individuals that I lived with one in particular who also had mental health issues, and I became the primary target of all of his violence? Yeah, about that. They didn't put him on psychotropic drugs. They did not put him on anything that would sedate him at all. In fact, what they ended up putting him on is Adderall. Now, I don't know about you, but for anybody else who's got two brain cells to rub together, Adderall is not at all considered a psychotropic medication. It does not sedate anyone. It is a narcotic. It actually gives more energy, not less. Oh, but Dr. Israel's not going to tell you that. He's not also going to take you into the real facts here. But all these kids with their severe behaviors are all put on these drugs. No, they're not. No, they're not. This was the experience of folks back in the 70s. As I've said a billion times on this channel, I'm not a paid shill for Big Pharma, but I know bullshit when I see it. Okay? We need to get a more realistic look at what is pharmacology in this world. People are so busy making them the big bad that they don't fucking care if they harm others who are on medications that actually do help in the process. Okay? There's a problem with always setting up the boogeyman to defeat. That's when you don't take into consideration the numerous things that are a part of pharmacology. But that's another subject. A recent comprehensive study analyzing treatment of children and adolescents with antipsychotic medications showed a 6-fold national increase in the use of such drugs since 1993 and 2002. Can I get into that study a little bit? What happened in 1994? Why the sudden increase? Why sudden use of drugs? Well, I can answer that for you without being a complete psychopath who wants to use it as a means to torture kids. What happened in 94 that was a landfall for many people with neurodiverse disabilities that used to be misdiagnosed as behavioral disorders is that the DSM-4 came out. Now, the DSM-4 was a landmark for a lot of reasons. In the autism world, that is the first appearance of the term Asperger's syndrome, which thankfully that name has gone the way of the dodo. But that's neither here nor there. That's a completely different subject on its own. But the DSM-4 brought in Asperger's. It also brought in better criteria for conditions such as ADHD, and some of the other neurodevelopmental disorders. The reason why medications went up was because diagnosis went up, because people who were previously not being treated, who were not diagnosed, were being diagnosed properly and coming into treatment programs for the first time in their lives. See, if you have logic and a good fucking memory, you can see how this happened. People like Dr. Israel is not going to give you context. They're just going to give you numbers and feed your paranoia. Context always matters, folks. Context always matters. But let's move on. Although there is no authoritative or official count of the number of youth using psychotropic drugs in the United States, the New York Times reported 2006 that approximately 1.6 million teenagers, 280,000 of them under the age of 10, were given at least 2 psychiatric drugs in combination. Here we go again. He's feeding you that paranoia, and he's using an appeal to authority, which is the New York Times, as a means to defend himself, which is quite convenient. The New York Times has put, patting JRC in the back out pieces, praising the parents who send their kids to this hellhole pieces in their newspaper. It's a setup, folks, and it's bad for you. He does so again. He wants to use these numbers to shock you, to bring you around to his way of thinking without providing proper context. So in 2006, this was during when I was a part of, we call it the Southwest PAC. It's an advisory committee made up of parents, people with the diagnosis, doctors, case managers, and social workers that handle our part of Missouri. This particular group handles things such as interviewing folks for jobs at our Department of Mental Health and Developmental Disabilities. We handle helping funding programs out there for sensory-friendly rooms, ad nauseum. We did a lot of shit. Can I tell you in 2006 what was going on during the time? See, this was one of the heights of panic back in the early 2000s. The height of the parental panic about the so-called autism epidemic. And they called it an epidemic, folks. Let that sit in your mind for a minute. This is at the height of, it's an epidemic, oh my God. Yeah, those people. That was what was going on at the time, folks. And you saw it in article after article after article. I know, I read them. Paranoia does not spark brilliance, folks. It just leads to more stupid. And boy, did it lead to some special level of stupid. It's playing into that autism paranoia thing again. See, here's the facts. Starting with recognition of ADD and ADHD in the early 90s, we're talking circa 91, 92. The amount of kids receiving medication went up, understandably so. And why is this? Because again, kids were getting properly diagnosed and then placed on treatment programs to best assist them. And the fact of these numbers do not shock me. In fact, what shocks me is that it's so low. 1.6 million may seem like it's a massive number. It's not, folks. Even in 2006, we had well over 1 billion people on this planet. This is actually a remarkably low margin. But it sounds big, so they used it to build a panic. Giving anti-vaxxers a platform, which we are still seeing the repercussions from today. I may do a series on that eventually. I don't know. It just still irks me. They've been using these tropes for years, and the media ate it up because it was sensational. Right? Right? What's going to sell more papers? Autism epidemic? Or kids finally being properly diagnosed, getting in treatment programs that are best for them? What's going to sell more papers? That's my point. The critically acclaimed PBS documentary series Frontline, and its series entitled The Medicated Child, asserts the number of children taking psychotropic drugs is much higher, putting it at 6 million. Here we go. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about right here. This sensationalism. Is Matthew Israel going to tell you the number of kids being properly diagnosed for the first time during this era? No, he's not. Is he going to tell you how many of those people were not actually considered children anymore? Hi, how you doing? Diagnosed in 2003. Yeah, they're not going to tell you about that. They want you to believe that we are drugged out of our gourds by big pharma who doesn't care about us and just wants to make money off us. Pharmacology is a business, folks. Of course they want to make money. That's just stupid. However, what he is asserting here is using that fear factor from the early 2000s that was calming down circa 2010. He wants to throw gasoline on the smoldering fire to keep it blazing so he can hold on to his fucking test experiments. That's what this is. Frontline was hardly the only one to sensationalize it. I remember seeing things in Psychology Today. Thankfully, they were the ones to add logic into the equation, which is the only reason why I kept that magazine in subscription, by the way, because they were the only ones who were talking logic at the time. But here's my point. It's part of that sensationalism. It's part of you're still using people's paranoia, whether it's against big pharma or anything else. You're peddling pseudoscience. And most of all, you're using it as a means and an argument to continue to torture children and tell us it's good for them. It still doesn't work. Railing against big pharma does not justify the shit that you get up to, Dr. Israel. You are using one of the maneuvers that's been done throughout history. I'm going to get you angry at that guy so that I can then hide behind. Whatever was going on during that era with medications and new diagnoses. I know because I lived it. I was there. And working at the time, I might add. Successfully on my own. I'll throw that out there too. Doing all the things they said I'd never be able to do when I got my diagnosis. I'm just throwing that out there. Fuck you, doctors. My point is, we're going to rail against pharmacology. We're going to rail against public schools. We're going to rail against group homes and other shit that we've never been involved in and don't even have any idea what we're talking about. All as a means and a way to hide behind it. And as a reason and excuse to justify my torturing children for generation after generation after generation. Whether we are an over-medicated society or if we're not, does not have anything to do with the horrors perpetuated on children at the JRC. I'm going to close out on that. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few that we do get to get removed from time to time. So please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time, and as always, we hope you have a good one. I'm going to go relax before I have to put on gym clothes and go kick my own ass again. Bye-bye, everyone.